Beyond the Junkyard. What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Beyond the Junkyard podcast. I am your host, Junkyard James, and I'm running this bitch solo for this episode, going over and recapping Ring of Honor's Final Battle pay-per-view 2024, live from the Hammerstein Ballroom last night in New York City. And let me tell you something, this is a pay-per-view that, outside of the few mistakes in booking, I think could be considered one of the best pay-per-views of 2024. I said online on social media that I felt like we were stealing this pay-per-view because all you needed was an Honor Club membership to watch something that you probably... I would have paid $50 for this pay-per-view. It was a really good show, so I want to break down the best of Ring of Honor Final Battle, but also go over some of the worst and just give my overall opinions on the Final Battle pay-per-view. But before we do that, I can't be remiss into saying, this holiday season, Christmas is coming. Get your last holiday items from the WWE shop by clicking on the link in the description box below. Or if you're listening on the audio platform and not on the YouTube stream, be sure to click and find the link in the show notes as well. WWE shop, a lot of new merchandise, titles, championship belts. Use our link, help support the podcast, and get the items that you're looking for from the WWE shop. With that being said, we also got to thank W Energy. You go to w.gg, use the code Beyond the Yard, and you can get 10% off of your purchase of the next big thing in the energy game. That's W Energy. They're trying to break up the conglomeration of big energy with their energy products, and from what I've used, they're really good. It's worth the shot to try them. I would say, giving an honest review of them, they're not for everyone, but I think they're good. I think the flavors are really good, and try it for yourself. Use our code Beyond the Yard at checkout. Save 10% and help support the podcast. And last but not least, StubHub is we're an affiliate partner of StubHub. Use the link in the description box and buy your event tickets and help support the podcast as well. Enough of that, though. Enough of the housekeeping. Let's get into the main event, which is, let's talk about Ring of Honor Final Battle 2024. Well, I'm going to start with the 0 hour pre-show that was on YouTube for free. This should have got you to buy the pay-per-view if, from what we saw here, we started off with the Grizzled Young Veterans defeating the Dark Order, which was Alex Reynolds and John Silver. Man, how the mighty have fallen in the Grizzled Young Vets. I put in a Discord group that I'm in that it's kind of sad to see the Grizzly Young Vets. Like, they had such high potential in NXT, and now they're on the pre-show of a Ring of Honor pay-per-view. I understand they weren't booked particularly well with the way that they wanted to in NXT, and they wanted their out, and that's great. They probably would be on the main roster in WWE had they stayed the course. But they decided to prove it on their own, and they're on the pre-show. It was a good match with the Dark Order. Let's just say that. It was a really decent match to kind of introduce the crowd to the Hammerstein Ballroom. First match really of the night on the pre-show, and it served its purpose. It wasn't like a banger of a match, but it wasn't a dud either. It was just a decent match. But the Grizzled Young Veterans take the win. I hope to see them more in AEW, or like in bigger stories on ROH, because they are a really good tag team that I think could compete in that tag team division that's just kind of searching for more tag teams to bring themselves out and compete in the big picture of things, especially with Lucha Bros obviously leaving, and the Bucks are out for an unknown amount of time, and FTR they're there, but I kind of feel like FTR is in the position now of they're just trying to get other teams over and not necessarily win championships or be, competitive in the tag team division. They're okay being like the tag team that gets the newer tag team, like they're doing with the Outrunners, and trying to get them over into the main card scene. So we're just looking for some new tag teams in AEW and ROH, and I would love to see the Grizzled Young Veterans more in AEW. The next match, which was probably the match that I was most looking forward to on the pre-show, Hanako and Harley Cameron. Hanako gets the win in a match that lasted about 7.5 minutes. It wasn't a spectacle of any sort. It was, in ways, it was kind of sloppy, but Harley Cameron and Hanako both have very limited experience in pro wrestling. I think they said Hanako is now in her second year of wrestling. Harley Cameron's been in like wrestling herself for a very limited amount of time. So I wasn't expecting it to be like a 5-star in the Tokyo Dome type of match, but for the purpose that it served, I think that purpose was of getting fans acclaimed or acclimated to who Hanako is, especially with it being the part of the year where it's like international season for New Japan and Stardom, and we're moving forward to Wrestle Dream and Wrestle Kingdom and Wrestle Dynasty and Wrestle Kingdom, that we're moving the focus for I think for AEW, Ring of Honor, and Stardom, and all of this is now focused on Tokyo Dome for the next month or next couple of weeks into the month of January here. And so Hanako gets the win. It wasn't a spectacular match, but it wasn't a dud either. And honestly, all of the matches on the 0 hour pre-show weren't duds. They weren't terrible, but you can understand why they were on the pre-show, because they weren't the greatest of the great either. We go into another tag team match where the Undisputed Kingdom of Matt Taven and Mike Bennett beat and defeat the Infantry, Carly Bravo and Sean Dean, with Shane Taylor and Trish Adora leading them. Ever since the Infantry kind of turned bad guy, joined Shane Taylor Promotions, they've had this new edge to them. I've really enjoyed the times that I've watched the Infantry wrestle. I don't watch a whole lot of Ring of Honor, just simply because, and this is why I'm pushing for them to get a TV deal. It's just kind of hard for me, to remember Ring of Honor is on Thursday nights, and because this podcast comes on typically the live stream Thursday nights, I spend a lot of Thursday night leading up to the show, preparing for it, and so that's that. But also having to go to like Honor Club to watch it, it's a little inconvenient in my belief. But I think if they get a TV deal, more people will tune into Ring of Honor. They have some really good product, really good tag team action, and the Undisputed Kingdom, Matt Taven and Mike Bennett, showed up against the Infantry. They beat them in a 10-minute match that was fairly decent. I'm just really confused about the Undisputed Kingdom because, like, are they a faction? Is Adam Cole and Wardlow and Roddy Strong part of the faction still? Or like, what? They haven't given us a clear picture of what the Undisputed Kingdom is. I think Taven and Bennett are a great team. I think the Infantry are a great team. And it served its purpose. It gave the Undisputed Kingdom, who have been Ring of Honor legends and have fought at Hammerstein several times. I think Taven said that this was his 10th Final Battle pay-per-view that he's been a part of in some fashion. And so they get a win, and it's kind of like that big moment for an ROH legendary tag team. We end the pre-show 0 Hour with yet another tag team. The tag team action showed when the Gates of Agony, Bishop Khan and Toa Leona defeated EJ Nduka and Lee Johnson, going by the team named Lee J. And this was a very fun match. I love the Gates of Agony, and I think they deserve again to be in, just like the Grizzled Young Vets. I'd love to see them in AEW contending for the AEW World Championship, and I know for a while it was like Brian Cage and Toa Leona and Bishop Khan kind of being Swerve's bodyguards or muscle, and then they turned on him, and now Brian Cage is completely not even part of the stable anymore, and he went with Don Callis. And so what are you doing with Bishop Khan and Toa Leona? I would put them as a tag team out. The Gates of Agony are a really good tag team. Put them back in that main title picture, at least somewhere. And EJ Nduka and Lee Johnson, I think they're going to be an up-and-coming tag team as well. EJ Nduka, by the way, he reposted one of my social media posts yesterday, because I think his stock and the team stock is going nowhere but up. The man's like 6'8", and he did a backflip off of the top rope or the middle rope. It was excellent. I enjoyed EJ Nduka's performance. Gates of Agony get the win, and then afterwards, to end the pre-show, we get a turn where EJ Nduka and Lee Johnson come back in the ring, and you know, honor code is you shake and you thank your opponents for the match, and then they faked them out, acted like it was all good, and turned on the Gates of Agony, turning the Gates of Agony essentially to the baby faces now, which I think it'll be fun to see if they get a push anytime soon, and will Nduka and Johnson, Lee J, get a push as well. But on to the main card, the 8 o'clock hour hits. Caprice Coleman and Ian Riccoboni introduced Final Battle 2024. And by the way, Caprice Coleman, Ian Riccoboni might be one of the most underrated commentary teams in pro wrestling. In an era where you have commentary teams with Corey Graves and Michael Cole and Pat McAfee, and WWE has really good commentary teams, and AEW has their legendary Tony Schiavone and Excalibur with Taz and all of the other people that might play the third chair. And Nigel McGuinness, I think, is really good. But Caprice Coleman and Ian Riccoboni might be my favorite commentary team. They just have this natural chemistry for working for so long together. And they called this pay-per-view very well last night. And let me tell you, it's a good thing I'm doing it Saturday morning and not Friday night. Because the way this show ended, it might not have been very pleasant to hear me have to give my thoughts if I were to do it before I went to bed. But we started the pay-per-view with a singles match between Atlantis Jr. and Mansoor, with Mason Madden on the in the corner of Mansoor for MXM Collection, with Atlantis Jr. defeating Mansoor because in the side of Atlantis Jr. middle of the match, a returning Danhausen comes back and puts a curse on Mason Madden, and Mansoor loses. It was a good match to start the show, kind of fun. We get Danhausen back. The crowd was popping for it. It wasn't like a spectacular in-ring performance. Mansoor's a really good wrestler. Atlantis Jr. was a really good wrestler, but again, it was a 12-minute match. It wasn't something that was going to be a 5-star Tokyo Dome style match. CageMatch.net so far through the fan voting has voted this about a 6 out of 10, which is probably where I would put it if I were to vote on these. And so Atlantis Jr. gets a win. He's a former Ring of Honor World Television Champion, and I think he gets an opportunity maybe to have another World Television Championship match at some point in time. Good showing for both of these competitors. I kind of see the MXM Collection more as I don't necessarily need to see them wrestle, but the stuff they were doing with Johnny TV was fun, and I don't know. They're just kind of the comedy gimmick that I love, which is kind of fun to see them and Danhausen working together, and maybe there's something that comes out of that. I'm not really sure. Afterwards, we then get another singles match, which is kind of, in my opinion, this match probably could have lasted a little longer. I would have liked to see this match last more than 10 minutes, but Katsuyori Shibata fighting the Dynamite Kid, Tommy Billington, and Tommy Billington is going to be a superstar in the making. He had a really good performance with Shibata. Really good match. It kind of ended kind of weird with Tommy Billington getting choked out by Shibata. But it was a fun match. Got the crowd into it, kind of settle in as we were getting ready to enter some of the more exciting parts of the show. We then get, this was a fun match. It wasn't a really good match. It was fun. It was kind of a nostalgia act. QT Marshall comes out using the parody NWO style Titantron and gear, looking like Randy Savage when he was in the NWO. And Jay Lethal coming out as Black Machismo, which was obviously a play on Randy Savage, so it was just kind of like the Randy Savage nostalgia act, and it got the Black Machismo got a big pop from the ROH fans at Hammerstein Ballroom. I was loving it as well. We saw Jeff Jarrett come out and make his first ever appearance in a Ring of Honor ring when he smashed the guitar over the head of Aaron Solo. And at the end of the day, Black Machismo, Jay Lethal defeats QT Marshall. Can we give QT Marshall some credit, though? Because he's a really good wrestler. And Jay Lethal can still go as well. These are two veterans that have done it for quite a while, but they just know what they're doing, and they do it really well. QT Marshall, I think if we saw QT Marshall with championship gold in the future, I would love it. And same with Jay Lethal. Got to give props to both of these guys for doing their craft at this point in their careers and doing it at a high level. Really good match again. And look, I know some people don't take the cage match ratings well, but so far, like, this one was a 5.92 so far on the fan voting. I would probably have given it about the same rating, about a 6. We started off really consistent with three really good singles matches, just kind of getting the fans settled in to the show. The next match, we got a women's Ring of Honor World Television title match between Red Velvet and Layla Hirsch. And I've been a Layla Hirsch fan since she debuted in AEW. I thought she just has like the look of something that could be championship material if they gave it a proper if they gave Layla Hirsch a proper character and developed her in-ring work. Like, she could really be something special. And same thing with Red Velvet. I'm a big fan of Red Velvet as well. At the end of the day, Red Velvet retains her Ring of Honor Women's Championship match, doing a little bit of trickery. She couldn't put Layla Hirsch away, goes under the ring, pulls out a ring post, but hides a wrench in her trunks. Distracts the referee. He takes the ring post, throws it out of the ring, but while he's distracted, she hits Layla Hirsch with the wrench and gets the cheap victory, the knockout blow. Red Velvet retains. I'd like to see a rematch of this if that's where it goes. I don't know where. Ring of Final Battle always gets me interested to tune in and watch Ring of Honor when I watch their pay-per-views, because their pay-per-views are really well done, and I kind of am intrigued to see where this storyline goes for the Women's World Television title. We then get an ROH Pure title match. Lee Moriarty throws out the open challenge, and all day long we were wondering, who is going to answer the call? Is it going to be Samoa Joe? Is it going to be a new debuting wrestler for Ring of Honor? And we hear the music hit, the crowd go wild, and Nigel McGuinness comes out to fight Lee Moriarty for the ROH Pure title. Nigel McGuinness was one of the founders, really, of the Pure title and the rules around it, and he comes out and says, let's not do these new rules where like closed fist punches cost you a rope break or whatever. Let's do the old school rules that I grew up wrestling in ROH with. He has a pretty great promo battle with Shane Taylor. Nigel, at one point, the interaction basically goes, hey Shane, just because you got a hair around your face doesn't mean you should talk like a pussy. Shane Taylor then goes, you are what you eat, and then Nigel hits him with the knockout promo blow. Well, I guess that means you're Lee Moriarty's asshole. And it was just great. And then the match actually starts, and they go by old rules, no more judges, none of that. And Lee Moriarty and Nigel McGuinness just explode on the crowd. Nigel McGuinness, thank God you got that kiss from Mariah May, because you have been putting in some work in the matches that you've done for AEW and Ring of Honor. And Lee Moriarty, I've always been a fan of Tiger Style. I think he's one of the best technical wrestlers in the world. And he proved it here. He took Nigel to the limits, and when all three people have executed their rope breaks and rope breaks wouldn't break holds, Lee Moriarty did a little bit of cheating. Put his feet on the ropes, cringed back, and made Nigel McGuinness tap. And it was a really good match, and I enjoyed it very much. I'd probably give it like a 4.5 star out of 5. And it was a really good match, and I really enjoyed it. And Lee Moriarty is fun to watch. Nigel McGuinness is fun to watch. And really good match. We then go to the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championship Double Bull Rope match. And this was fun. This was nostalgia. Dutch was, I don't know what it is about the Rhodes family, Dustin and Cody, but it seems like every big match that they have, there has to have some mention of Dusty. And I get it. Dusty Rhodes was a legend in the game of pro wrestling. Not only in WWE, but in WCW and wrestling in general. It just kind of gets tiring when Dustin and Cody has to use their dad's name to kind of create a emotional appeal for a match. And they do the double bull rope where there's the cowbells hooked in the middle, and one of the cowbells on one of the ropes was the cowbell that Dusty Rhodes hit Dr. Billy Graham with like 50 years ago or whatever, and obviously that's the cowbell that Dustin's going to use to hit Dutch with to end the match, and that's exactly what happened, and it was great for what it was. There were some really good spots. Sammy Guevara, he's an absolute insane person when it comes to some of the spots that he does, and it was good for what it was supposed to be. And obviously I haven't watched a lot of ROH leading up to this, but I understand the story. I'm just maybe I have I'm just exhausted with Cody and Dustin using their father as the emotional appeal to get over. But the in-ring work was great. And so we learn later on in the show that the Sons of Texas, Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara, will be in Japan at Wrestle Dynasty defending the ROH World Tag Team titles against the House of Torture, which is a New Japan tag team, which I think that it just kind of came out of left field, but it'll be really cool, really fun. I hope maybe we get a Dick Tojo appearance in some way, shape, or form for the House of Torture. Jack Perry used to be in that team. I wonder if he makes an appearance or if he's gone out of the House of Torture and fully on Team Elite. Well, we're leading towards Wrestle Dynasty and Wrestle Kingdom, and that's kind of, I think, the focus of Ring of Honor for the next couple weeks. And AEW too, after World's End next Saturday, a week from today, it's the next couple of weeks after that. It's going to be like the week after that, the week or two after that. It's going to be we're focused on the Japan storylines, and then we'll build towards the Australian show in February. We then get an ROH World Television Title Survival of the Fittest 6-way elimination match between Commander, Brian Cage, which comes in as champion, AR Fox, Blake Christian, Mark Davis, and the chocolate juggalo himself, Willie Mack. Early on into the match, it was just a barn beater. Everybody was beating the living hell out of everyone. This match in total went about 25 minutes, and it was just thrilling. We get an early elimination of Willie Mack about 9.5 minutes into the match, which I get it. I love Willie Mack. Like when I was a diehard TNA fan, Willie Mack was there, and he was tag teaming with Rich Swann, and it was just so much fun to watch those two. And Willie Mack has been one of my most underrated wrestlers. He deserves to have a big push, and I was hoping that maybe this could be that opportunity to give Willie Mack something big for Santa Mac, a good Christmas gift for the chocolate juggalo. But he did what he had to do. He had his moments. Willie Mack got eliminated first. Brian Cage went on another elimination here a couple minutes later, eliminating AR Fox. And then the surprise of all surprises, Mark Davis comes in and eliminates the champion, Brian Cage, hits him with a pile driver, holds him stiff. Brian Cage gets eliminated 16 minutes into the match by Mark Davis. And then Blake Christian, Vanilla Baby Blake Christian, comes in just a few seconds later and eliminates Mark Davis, setting up the final two between Blake Christian and Commander. And after all the eliminations had happened and we got to the final two, this is where the match picked up. And this could be match. This probably, in my opinion, would be the match of the night, simply because Commander and Blake Christian put on an absolute spectacle for about 8 minutes to end this match. which ultimately saw Commander win the ROH TV title. Absolutely, he deserves this. Commander has been a workhorse for AEW and ROH for a year plus now. And it even comes in so much as Juice Robinson breaks his foot or breaks his ankle or whatever he did for the Continental Classic, and Commander steps right in to take his spot in the Continental Classic. And he totally deserves this. He is one of the most exhilarating people to watch in a pro wrestling ring. We then get to Chris Jericho and Matt Cardona, and this match has a 2.6 rating out of 10 on Cage Match. I think it's probably like a 3-star match. It's got the rating it's got because everyone just absolutely hates Chris Jericho. But Chris Jericho comes out, and I get the gimmick. He's intentionally saying things that are going to piss off New Yorkers. I get the gimmick. I'm not a big fan of Chris Jericho at this point. Matt Cardona, I think, totally should have won this match. Jericho retains the belt because Big Bill comes back from his honeymoon, a newly married man, and interferes, hits Cardona with his size 20 boot while Brian Keith was distracting the ref. And Brian Keith then comes in and beats up Chris Jericho. He gets a weak pin over Matt Cardona. And that's when things get interesting at the end of this match. The Learning Tree comes back and starts beating up Cardona after the bell had rang. And enter into the scene. The returning Bandito comes back and takes out Chris Jericho, leading me to see that the ROH title is Bandito's going to be the one to save us from the Jericho Vortex and the Learning Tree, hopefully. Though he may have given himself a concussion and during the interference. But overall, it was a decent segment. I get what's going on. I get the idea of Jericho being champion, especially with Ring of Honor maybe trying to get a TV deal out of all of this. Jericho was the champion when AEW started their TV, and then maybe Ring of Honor maybe they have the same way of thinking, is we put somebody with some name recognition as our champion, leading into maybe us getting a TV deal that we could possibly get some recognition and get decent ratings out of ROH with Jericho as champion. It's his gimmick at this point, like the heat he gets, it isn't like I hate you heat. It's go away, we don't want you here heat. And that's the worst kind of heat to have. And Jericho's your champion. He retains. It looks like he's going to fight Bandito next. And that should be fun to see both on AEW television and in the Ring of Honor world as well. And then we get to the final match of the night. Athena puts the ROH Women's World title on the line against Billy Starks. And what should have been a moment that left the fans home happy. Billy Starks comes out wearing the gear of Sumi Suzuki, I think was her name, who is retiring at Battle in the Valley in San Jose next month. And she was wearing that gear from the time that she won the ROH Women's title, the first ever ROH Women's World Champion. Sumi Sakai. And I guess her mom maybe posted that Billy had another set of ring gear and a big entrance that they were wanting to have, but It didn't get shipped out in time, and USPS failed us from what Billie Starkz wanted to do introduction-wise and all of that. But I thought her gear looked well, Billie Starkz. And Athena comes out, like she always does, dressed very well, dressed as Two-Face for this pay-per-view. And they just beat the ever-living hell out of each other. Billie Starkz was throwing caution to the wind. Pile drivers on Athena. Big moves outside the ring. It was a really fun match. And then we get to the end, and Athena pins Billie Starkz. And the fan, like, it was just so deafening. Like, and this is where I'm going to spend the rest of the show. Is this past Tuesday on the Slapping Meat Wrestling podcast, their end of year review, I said that Tony Khan was Booker of the Year. Because I said, and then my justification for it was the mistakes that Tony Khan makes kind of gets hidden by just how good he books a lot of his storylines. Whereas like Triple H and Shawn Michaels, they really are hanging on to the new or to the old storylines, and where Tony Khan seems to have this ability to just let new storylines develop. And what a way it would have been for Billie Starkz to lead into the new year as your Ring of Honor Women's Champion. What a storyline you could push there, a new storyline that you could push, and you're leaving Athena as champion. And I get it. Athena is just a dominant force, and again, maybe that TV recognition of having someone that people maybe already know. She has WWE experience. For those who don't know, she was in NXT under the name Ember Moon. But man, this was the moment. This was the equivalent of Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. And it would have been like having Roman win again at WrestleMania. That's what we saw. This was the equivalent of Roman Reigns pinning Cody Rhodes for a second time. And this could have been the finish the story moment. The crowd would have absolutely lost their goddamn minds had Billie Starkz won this match. Like, I'm not super upset with the fact that Athena won, because I think Athena is a great champion, and she does really good things in the ring, and she's a really good wrestler. But just the idea for a booker should be you have the fans leave the arena happy. And, okay, Athena wins and Billie Starkz comes out, but can we get Athena's next opponent? Like, I know Athena's going into Wrestle Dynasty as the Ring of Honor World Champion in a 4-way match to determine who the next Stardom champion is or something like that. Like I don't understand it. I don't get the logic behind the booking. And it like Tony Khan, I gave you a lot of praise on Tuesday saying, man, you're a really good booker and you like to kind of progress and make new characters and make new storylines matter. And you have the opportunity here to end this feud with Athena and Billie Starkz and push Billie Starkz to a new level and really create a really dominant babyface with Billie Starkz. And yet I feel like this is the 2023 version of Final Battle again. And to be quite honest, the first version of this match was a better version of the match. But it's like we told the story a second time, and we got the same result. And I just don't understand why have the storyline go here. The whole idea should have been, it's been a year, it's been 18 months, and Billie Starkz and Athena have kind of had this tension, and Billie Starkz should have been victorious. To this day, to this minute, think Billie Starkz should have won this match. And I would have said a lot worse last night if I was if I was recording it last night after the show. Early this morning, the show went off about midnight Eastern time. It's just like, why? And we don't progress anything. Like, Athena's still the forever champion, and Billie Starkz, where does she go? Like, at least Billie Starkz lost, and they then created the women's world TV title, and Billie Starkz was able to push herself into that picture. Like, does she go for the world TV title again? Or does she go after the world title again? Does she get lost in the fray? Like, it would have been easier for you to have Athena lose. Oh, what happens to Athena? Where does she go? And then she makes her name known in AEW as, hey, I'm coming after the TBS title, or I'm coming after the AEW women's title, or something like that. Like, it would have been easier to transition Athena post-championship reign rather than now Billie Starkz is now, where do we put her? Like, I think she could work the AEW women's scene, but she's 20 years old. She hasn't had a dominated championship run. She doesn't have the name recognition yet that someone like Athena does have. I just think the booking decision should have been, this is the moment we make Billie Starkz a star. And we make Athena, we give her the belt. They have that emotional, like, moment after Billie Starkz wins. And I just feel like this is the equivalent to me of, like, when Swerve in Their Glory retained the tag titles against the Acclaimed in Chicago, and then the next week in New York City at Grand Slam, they had the Acclaimed win the belts over them. Like, you missed the moment. It wasn't as powerful because you missed the opportunity. And everything that I thought we could have gotten at WrestleMania this past year when Cody won the belt, that Roman beats Cody again, and where does Cody go from here? He's lost the world title twice so it doesn't make any sense to put Billie Starkz against Athena for a third time, because what, best 2 out of 3, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just doesn't make sense from a storyline. It's illogical booking. And I get it, if there is a TV deal in place, you want to have people that people kind of have some recognition for leading the divisions. But man, this would have been a big moment. You kind of have to understand the audience. Like, the people watching Ring of Honor would know who Billie Starkz is. They already know who the roster is. And man, it was just so disappointing to end the show that way. It was a really good match beforehand. It really was. It was a really good match. But having Chris Jericho retain against Cardona, and then Athena beating Billie Starkz, like, what was a really good middle of the pay-per-view with Lee Moriarty and the Bull Rope match and the Survival of the Fittest match, like Layla Hirsch and Red Velvet, Jay Lethal. Like, we had a series of 5 matches in the middle of this card that just kind of get deflated because the double main event didn't live up to a lot of the expectations that I think we were expecting. Leading into this, I was like, oh yeah, this Ricky Starks thing is all a work, and maybe it isn't. I'm starting to question maybe it's legit beef, because I was like, yeah, Ricky Starks is obviously going to interfere and beat up Matt Cardona. Didn't happen. Oh, Billie Starkz, I put a lot of confidence in the fact that I thought Billie Starkz was going to win this match, and she didn't, and she put on a really good show, and it would have been a perfect moment to have it happen. But yeah, and Tony Khan, like, I don't often question your booking. Like, I want to give you the benefit of the doubt when it comes to what you're doing, Tony, but I really do think you've missed this moment with Billie Starkz. And I guess I'll check out and see what leads up to it. I don't know. I don't understand it, and it just didn't make sense from an in-ring perspective, but also from a storyline perspective. Like, Billie Starkz beat the living shit out of Athena. And she got her, they both were beating the ever-living shit out of each other. And I don't know. Athena pulled out all of her weapons, and Billy Starks, I felt like, I don't know, just from a storyline perspective, thinking long term, you could have created something special. And the first time Billy Starks wrestled in Hammerstein Ballroom, she wins the women's title, and it could have been a special moment. Now, what I'm thinking is Billy Starks joins Sumi Sakai's team for her retirement match, is what I'm assuming. Is where Billy Starks will be, and she'll lead that team, because but man, the show, the last 45 minutes of the show was good. It was decent in ring work. Like, even Jericho and Cardona had a decent match, but the finish, I just questioned the booking on some of this stuff. And right now, Cage Match has this as a 6.77 rating on the fan vote. We read some of the comments. Would have been a 10, but they really blew it with the finishes of the two main events, especially the Women's World Ring of Honor Championship. Just inexcusable to build up Billy Starks for 2 straight final battles just to have her lose both times. Some other people said it was a mixed bag, some standout moments and matches, high-flying action. AR Fox, Blake Christian, blah, 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 was a highlight. While the talent was there, the show lacked consistency in storytelling. I could see that. Last year's Final Battle was a 10. I'm going to give this year's Final Battle like an 8. Solid pay-per-view, a lot of fun surprises. Starks Athena was a solid match, but it's firmly in the shadow of last year's matchup at 2023 Final Battle. Not pulling the trigger on that title change was a bit of a shock. Not that Billy needs to win the title at her age, but the build to this seems fairly pointless in retrospect, and I have no idea what's left for Athena to do in Ring of Honor. Fantastic. Exactly. He says Jericho. They say in this comment, Jericho's entrance was great. Yeah, the match followed not so much. The finish was limp. The crowd was out of it. Having been Dino run in to make the save was certainly a choice. That entire angle seemed doomed from the jump. Everything else was pretty enjoyable. Kind of what I've said for the past little bit. That it was a really good show, and the main events just kind of let us down a little bit. So yeah, I'd give this pay-per-view like an 8 out of 10. Last year's Final Battle, I think I gave it a 10. But let me know what you guys think. Did you watch Final Battle? I gotta question Tony's booking sometimes, and this is one of the times where his booking really comes into question, especially in some of these big moments. And he just lacks the ability to build big stars and know when to flip that switch. Like, I think Tony Khan, he needs the fans to tell him what to do. At this point, it seems like in certain instances, he doesn't have the instinct to say this would be the right time to create this superstar. He has to rely on the fans to tell him when to pull the trigger. And to be a really good wrestling booker, you have to kind of have that instinct of saying, this is the moment. And like, this was the moment, Tony. This was the moment to make Billy Starks your next women's star. And it didn't. And you didn't pull the trigger. And I'm going to call you out on it. You should have pulled the trigger on this one, Tony. I like your work. I love AEW Ring of Honor. It was just poorly executed, in my opinion, in terms of that storyline. And you left the fans home like disappointed and angry. And maybe that's what you wanted. Like, the heels are running the asylum in AEW and Ring of Honor, so maybe that's the story they're trying to tell. But for your last pay-per-view of 2024, leading into 2025, it just kind of leaves a sour taste in your mouth. But anyways, we'll be back with the live stream this Thursday. We're going to predict World's End, AEW's pay-per-view, next Saturday, live in Orlando, Florida. That should be a fun show. Tune into the live stream on the YouTube channel. If you're listening on audio on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure that you leave us a review and share it with your friends, and follow us on Apple and on Spotify. That way you get updated when a new episode drops. If you're watching this on the YouTube channel, make sure to hit subscribe and like and comment your thoughts on Ring of Honor Final Battle. Look at the links in the description box. Help support the podcast, guys. Oh, also, we got some merch out. Go to beyondthejunkyard.com and check out the merch page. And we will see you on Thursday. And then I'll probably do a recap video like this as well for World's End after that show at some point. It might not be the day after, or it might be a day or two after. Then I'll give my recap of that show. But for the Beyond the Junkyard podcast, I'm Junkyard James. Tune in next week for the prediction show on Thursday, and we will see you then.